Hi there guys, got a little video here for you today on the NateChrony. Now as the name suggests, the NateChrony is a chronograph made by a man named Nate. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the unit. I'm going to be going over some of the things I like about it, some of the things I dislike about it, and then giving you my final thoughts on it. If you like what you see, you can get 5% off using the link in the description below. And I will mention that this product here was given to me free of charge for the purpose of this review. With that said, we can start with a quick look over it. So the body itself is 3D printed, made in sections with the two circuit boards on top. There's no onboard battery or screen, so to power the unit you will need an external power supply such as a phone, tablet or a power bank. And then to view the results you will need something like a smartphone or a tablet to connect to the onboard Wi-Fi. To mount the chronograph to our rifles we use a 1/2" UNF threaded mount. These can be just screwed onto the end of our shroud or barrel and then allow us to install the chronograph on top of it. There are other mounting options for rifles without a 1/2" UNF on the end, so this one here goes around a shroud or something similar, and there is a slightly smaller one at the front here. These can be purchased separately from the store, but they just allow us to install the chronograph onto other rifles. With the boss installed we can mount the chronograph on top and then line the holes up and secure it in place using either a grub screw or I stole a self-tapper from the body of the device and just used that. To view the readings you'll need to power the device up, connect to the hotspot using your phone or tablet, and then you can view the local web page which the results are stored on. A full tutorial can be found on the NateChrony YouTube channel, but it's a super simple process. The software allows you to set the pellet weight for calculating power. It also calculates FPS spread, standard deviation, as well as showing off some other useful statistics. I'm not sure how many shots it can record in one sitting. I shot over 100 and it recorded them just fine, so for long shot strings it's quite capable. Overall, the software is nice and easy to use and does most of the things you'd want a chronograph to do. With that all said, we'll go over some of the things I like about the chronograph and some of the things I don't, starting off with the positives. First up, it's nice and easy to install and also really lightweight. In my testing, it did not affect the point of impact and it could be used whilst shooting groups without affecting accuracy. The device itself is a lot more versatile than either my Scan or my Caldwell G2 chronograph, as you can use it without having to worry about having everything lined up or shooting directly in a certain spot. As the chronograph is muzzle mounted you can point it where you want and you don't have to worry about things going off to one side or the chronograph not reading as you're not shooting straight through it. Secondly, the chronograph itself has proven to be very accurate. From my tests back to back against both the Caldwell, the Scan and also the inbuilt Daystate chronograph on the Alpha Wolf, the results themselves were very similar. Only a few feet per second deviation between all three units. That deviation could have been caused by the fact that the chronographs were placed different distances away from the end of the muzzle. So obviously as the pellet leaves the end of the barrel it's going to be slowing down, and the further that you place the chronograph away from the muzzle, the lower the feet per second reading will be. If you look on the NateChrony YouTube channel, you can see that he has a video explaining how accurate the chronograph is and how it's been certified to a very high level. The other thing I like about it is that the chronograph seems to work in all conditions. I've used it both indoors and outdoors, as well as in low light conditions and only 2 or 3 inches away from a backstop. And I mention this because other chronographs like the FX radar need a few feet around the unit to get accurate readings. And that's very handy if you're trying to chronograph a rifle in the shed or garage where you don't have a lot of space around you. With that said, the next thing I want to talk about is some of the negatives from this device here. There's only really 1 or 2, and the first is the 3D printed body and mount. It's very easy to cross-thread the mount onto your 1/2" UNF, and it's also quite easy to strip the small securing screw out in the side of the unit. To be honest with you, I'm not really a big fan of the 3D printed stuff, and it would be a lot nicer if the body was made from aluminium. This would obviously see a massive rise in the cost of the unit and would probably be a little harder to produce, but having said that, if you're nice and careful, it does do the job, although I may have a go at making the body out of aluminium, and that'll be a sort of video project that I'll do later on in the year. The device itself does work really quite nicely, but the 3D printed body I'm not really a fan on. Another minor complaint I have is the lack of onboard battery. It's a little bit of a pain to power the unit from a power bank, and my phone doesn't seem to want to power the unit on. I'm using an S24 Ultra and it wouldn't power the device directly, so I did have to carry about an external power bank with me. It's not a major deal, but I am going to try and put a little rechargeable battery in it somehow. But with that said, that's pretty much all my negatives with the device itself. It seems to work absolutely perfectly. I would like to see a few more features added to the software, like a graphing feature and a way to edit the shot strings directly. But again, no real problems with the device itself. It's proven to be very reliable, nice and accurate, and I've had no issues with it. Right then, should you buy the Nate chronograph? I would say, if you can put up with the small quirks that this thing has, it's an absolutely fantastic chronograph to have in your arsenal. It's nice and reliable, really accurate, and super easy to use. Depending on your rifle's configuration, it can be a little bit of a pain to get set up, but once it's actually on there, it's really not a problem. You can do nice long shot strings very easily, and whilst the software is a little basic at the moment, in the near future I can see that being improved with a lot of new features coming along. Overall, the device itself is really quite solid, and I would be happy to use this as a range or logging chronograph that I can shoot groups with whilst recording my shot strings. You will be seeing it in videos in the near future. I've got the FX DRS that I want to review, and I will say that this chronograph here has replaced the Caldwell G2 as my go-to range chronograph. But with that all said and done, that's pretty much going to do it for this particular video. So thank you very much for watching. I hope it's been interesting or useful. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.